Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we have another mega packed week for you today. We are here every day on VCTV talking about the latest in technology, industries, and regions around the world. What's changing, what's not changing, what's advancing, what's integrating, what's happening. That's what we're here to talk about on VCTV. And this is that important time of the year, and why we have so much and why we have these double packed episodes is because this is that sprint towards the end of the year. You know what I'm talking about, whether you're on the investing side of the table or the entrepreneur side of the table. This is the moment of truth. This is the sprint towards the end of the year. This is when you're looking to deploy capital. This is when you're looking to raise capital. If you don't believe me, all of our investors are shaking their heads today, agreeing with me on this. We've all been through it on both sides. And so here we're to talk to you today about preparing for that opportunity and also where to start placing those bets. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about something very important. That is clean tech and environmental technologies, specifically around clean tech. There is a lot to talk about in this, whether it's around sustainability, whether it's around the environment, or just general clean technologies. And we've talked about this on previous episodes of VCTV, but we wanted to bring you a special edition. A lot's happening around the world right now. We thought this was the perfect time to bring up some of the latest companies and technologies that you need to be aware of if you're looking to make investments in this space, as we know that this is also a space that many are looking at for the next decades ahead. And before we get started and introduce our guests, a big thank you to you, our live audience. We appreciate you tuning in. And today, if you like what you hear, make sure you click that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out with any questions, comments, and we'd be happy to hear from you. And if you'd like to be on a show like today, like our investors or with our investors as well, please do reach out to Maria, to the LATOKEN team, and or myself. And we'd love to find the right episode for you to share your thoughts and insights on different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. And entrepreneurs, this is not just a stage for investors. This is also a stage for you, a great opportunity to take advantage of in that end of the year sprint. As we continue to talk about, there is a virtual stage for you to get up on and pitch us as investors in real time along with our live audience. So again, do reach out to the team and myself and we'll find the right spot for you. And a big thank you to Maria and to the entire LATOKEN team for making VCTV possible every single day on your screen, your device, anywhere in the world you may be watching. With that, let's go ahead and kick it off. We're going to be, again, talking today about clean and environmental technologies and what's happening in these areas, where the opportunities are in the companies and technologies that are powering them as well. So without further ado, let's introduce our first guest. William, welcome to the show. First time, pleasure to have you joining us all the way from Brazil. If you can, a little intro, a little background.
Sure, Kyle. Thank you very much for the introduction and for inviting us. So I'm Guillaume Sages, Managing Partner at Performa Investimentos. We're a private equity firm here in São Paulo. We invest in clean tech since 2013. We have invested in 8 companies in the logistics space, energy efficiency space, affordable housing space. And we have so far sold 4 of our 8 investments. The portfolio company that we have right now are growing very fast, and I would say that the year 2020 has surprisingly been a very, very good year for us. So we're quite happy with that. And of course, as everybody can expect, at some point of the beginning of the year, we had some expectation that were not that positive. And right now we are raising our next fund, which should be launched next year.
Wonderful. And since this is the first time, I would love to hear a little bit more about the fund. So at what stage do you invest in? Is there any criteria for the companies that you look at, and specifically for this next fund as you guys get to go to raise it?
Sure. So with the current fund is almost 200 million reais fund. So in dollar term, it's about $40 million. We're always minority investors, and we invest with this fund. We invested from the, I would say, venture capital stage to the early growth stage. So from companies that were just launching their product to companies that had already a production facility and that were in the wrapping up phase. So for example, we invested in what is today the largest LED light company in Brazil, which is a major player in public lighting in Brazil. And we're talking about more than 20 million lighting points for public illumination in Brazil. So that's a huge market and growing very, very fast. And with a very strong commitment from the public sector in Brazil to implement LED lighting as it reduces significantly energy consumption. At the same time, we invested, for instance, in two digital logistics startups. One is called IntelliPost and the other one Monday. And that were more like typical VC deals with the minority shareholding interest, syndicated deal with other VCs. And we fortunately had very good success with this deal. One of the company we sold our shareholding interest at the beginning of the year. The other one is still in our portfolio and is growing very, very fast. That's company that are bringing solution in streamlining digital logistics for e-commerce in Brazil, considering that the general logistic environment in Brazil is extremely complex. You have about 8,000 transportation companies. So in order to navigate in the middle of this complex environment, a lot of digitization is extremely useful. So that's the kind of investment that we've been doing. With the next fund that we're going to launch next year is going to be an ESG growth fund. And we're going to do slightly larger investments, I would say between $10 and $15 million per deal, still minority investors. And still, in general, in environment and health sector, with the idea that investing in environment has a very positive impact on the health of the population, and that health awareness comes from looking after the environment. So the idea is to invest in companies that have positive impact in these two sectors.
I love it. Well, thank you very much for sharing and welcome to the show. It's definitely relevant to today's topic, so we're going to dive into that a little bit further. And with that, Luis, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you as well. Also joining us from Brazil, I believe. And if you can, a little intro, a little background.
Hi, Caio. It's a pleasure being here again. Actually, today I'm in Brazil. I just got here yesterday, and I came to visit my family. But as you guys know, I'm headquartered in Miami, out of Miami. And my background is I've been involved with clean energy since 2009. So the last 11 years, just working with wind energy, solar energy, and all kinds of clean energy. Most recently, I have been, I've worked on two big utilities, developing wind energy, solar. Most recently, I have been working on my own advisory firm, also advising clients, selling, investing in clean tech solutions, as well, developing some initiatives. And I'm almost on the same page as Guilherme. We're launching a clean tech fund. I partner with two other Brazilian guys, specifically from the energy sector, and we're launching a fund that is it's going to focus on clean tech, on the energy side of clean tech. So we're going to be looking for innovations in United States, Europe, and Brazil, focus on allowing the growth of renewables in the global energy matrix, because we know that the renewables, they have some limitations, specifically on about the intermittency. So you have to work renewables together with some dispatchable source of energy. Also, we're willing to invest in distributed generation solutions. So we want to allow the growth of smaller generation facilities rather than big ones that have big environmental impact, and also some smart grid solutions. So we're going to be focusing on these three specific markets. We really believe there's a lot of room now with the growth of electric vehicles. You got to be 100% clean. So we understand that not that only replacing a common vehicle with an electric vehicle, it doesn't solve the problem, because there's coal and gas being burned somewhere to supply the energy to the electric vehicle. So we really want to go full circle. We think the solution is going to be full circle. So we believe there's going to be a lot of investments in this specific area. So that's why we're launching this fund. Also, we're working the capital, the funding until the end of the year. So we're going to be ready to invest by January 1st, 2021.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's a ton of development since we last had you on the show. So congratulations to you and the team for putting that together. That's exciting. Welcome back. Yeah, and Amal, welcome to the show for the first time. It's a pleasure to have you as well. A little intro, a little background, just so you know you're on mute. If you can, unmute yourself. Oh,
there you go.
There you go. Little intro, little background. Yeah, no worries.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ajmal Rahman. I am a partner at Sustainability Investors. We are a new group that is looking to raise money this year. We've got a number of institutions that are closely reviewing their investment decisions around us. So we hope to achieve a first close by the beginning of next year. And essentially, the managing partner is James McNaught Davis. He's a person who's had a considerable historical experience in sustainable investing. In our fund, our aim is to achieve three particular areas of focus around a circular economy, investments in a circular economy, investments around clean energy, and investments around sustainable transport. What we hope to do is to be able to make investments that are positive for the environment, that are measurable both from an environment as well as from a social impact. We think that the world post-COVID-19, the dreaded word has been said. So now post-COVID-19, we're talking about a build back better environment generally, and a willingness to reinvent the supply chain. I think one of the issues that has come about has been the vulnerability of the supply chain for many organizations. So now resilience is as important a factor in that evaluation process as ever. So the kind of companies that we're looking for investments really have got to be past that point of proof of concept stage. They've got to be at a point where they're seeking capital to scale up with the likelihood of sustainable cash flows at the same time as achieving the environmental and social goals that we have. We're seeking to measure the impact on the environment through our own proprietary model of measurement, derived partly from the impact management projects tabulation and the UN SDG goals. So unlike the former two guys, our focus is quite narrow. We are looking at small to medium-sized companies based in Europe, perhaps already serving customers beyond Europe, but they're seeking equity capital of between $3 to $10 million, 10 million euros, up to 15 million, depending on subsequent rounds. But they've got to have a clear competitive advantage and a potential for making significant social impact. So it is a fund that would need to establish some kind of proven or proprietary technology that would set you up different from everyone else in the world to have a sustainable advantage. We think this is a good space to be. It's before the infrastructure comes to play, but it's beyond the early stage, higher risk technology adoption stage. So we are in a place where capital is required, and there is a lot of interesting opportunities in Europe, led by Germany and the UK in particular, as being the areas where we see the most interest of new opportunities. So that's really the summary from my side. We're on, we have our own site at sustainability-investors.com.
Wonderful. We'll get back to that website in just a little bit at the end when we give the shout outs. But thank you very much for the early introduction. Congratulations to all three of you so far on your new funds. We've got two more guests I know who've got some awesome initiatives in this space as well. Telly, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure. Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy
A
Monday.
little intro, a little background for you as well.
Okay, so I'm Telly Owner. I'm based in the island of St. Kitts and Nevis. And here I'm a co-founder of Beyond Capital Markets as well as Alt Schools. So our focus under Beyond Capital Markets, we are really an alternative, I'll say a global alternative capital markets and alternative investment company. We're very tech enabled. We have been building out digital financial market infrastructure that is very specific to, you would say, the future of finance. As part of that, we also have a component for education where we're also professionalizing the space in terms of people leveraging digital financial market infrastructures. That's through our educational arm, Alt Schools. As it relates to funds, we tend to do managed funds. So we have a lot of private clients, institutional capital, a lot of family offices that pretty much are looking at managed funds. From an asset management side, we kind of, I would say, straddle in between both traditional and the newer way of doing funds. For example, we're in the current process of structuring some, should I say, tokenized ETFs. And around that, obviously, thematic investing comes along pretty strong in the area of clean tech and sustainable tech. I myself am a climate finance expert specialist. So for me, it is a sweet spot in terms of, especially for long-term, if you're taking a very long-term view to investing in transport, sustainable energy infrastructure. And especially now, as what Ajmal said, everybody's looking at building back better. So we're actually looking at more reinforced sustainable investments that are more resilient. So then looking at what the technologies are today, things like smart grids. Smart grids actually serve more than one purpose. They actually serve for, enhancing the resilience of even existing electric grids and stuff like that. So yeah, we are education, technology, and funds, and advisory as well.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, pretty much. We're ecosystem enablers, so yeah. So yeah, from that managed, when I look at what we're doing in the space of asset management with the managed accounts, definitely there is a bigger appetite for clean tech, environmental tech, circular economy sort of products as well. As portfolio managers, we see growth, significant growth and for returns for our clients in that space. So it is one of those thematics that is really long-term and incredibly sustainable, for us.
Wonderful. And welcome back to the show. Always a pleasure to have you. It's been a treat to continue to hear some of those developments that you guys have been making and pushing forward over the past few days. Patrick, welcome back to the show. I think you were one of my first guests here on BCTV talking about this subject. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you back here. I'll let you give your introduction and background from here.
Well, thank you. So I run a firm called ETF Partners. We manage the environmental technologies funds. And the past few months have been very busy for us. I probably said to you last time we talked that I didn't think they would be, but they just have been. We closed a new fund at over our target during lockdown. I won't mention the C word, but I can mention lockdown, I guess, and get away with it. So that's a couple of $100 million. We've been investing pretty actively. We've completed 3 investments since that lockdown started. and actually it's all go here in Europe. So I think Jamal's timing and James Whitmore Davies' timing is very good, and good luck to them. But we have become increasingly optimistic, and I may have been a bit pessimistic when we last talked about the likely impacts of all this stuff, but our portfolio companies have proven incredibly resilient, and we're really impressed by what they've been doing, and we're seeing now fantastic new opportunities. We're looking at a lot at AI-enabled businesses, and I hate using that phrase, but it's the shortest term I can think of. We've been looking at companies in logistics and transportation because that's changing rapidly, and many of the themes that others have mentioned. But you find me here now, instead of being pessimistic, now optimistic about life, and thinking that there's a lot we can and should be doing.
Well, that's exciting, and it's good to hear that in a short little bit you had a full transformation looking at the other side. But with that, let's actually kick it off with you. I mean, the current state of clean tech and environmental technology. I mean, you went from being pessimistic to now being optimistic. So let's start with you and sharing your view of what the current state is right now as you see it.
Well, we've noticed through the changes that have been happening recently. I think we all have a huge rise in interest in sustainability. I think the world has realised that big accidents can happen, and it's kind of focusing the mind on the big accident we've all been watching for, and it's been happening slowly. But Kyle, you're in San Francisco, right? Is the sky still yellow today? I can see a yellow glow out on your background. So these sorts of things are really alarm calls for us, and I think the world has been figuring out that it needs to change, and a lot of the rescue capital, I'll call it that, that's been gathered and gathering from European governments is focusing on the types of environment that people want to build. So I think there's much more emphasis on building a sustainable future now than there ever was. And people like McKinsey have been saying that the impact of the pandemic has been a 5-year leap forward in digitization in 5 weeks, stuff like that. It's nice symmetry to it. It's the same with sustainability. And our focus, happily enough, is on digital sustainability. And we're really seeing massive acceleration in that area.
Yeah, McKinsey puts a good ring on that, don't they? But in all truth, I think we can all agree, and we talk about it here on every day on VCTV, of how that digitization has impacted so many different industries. Right. But McKinsey's just way better at marketing and taglines. However, nonetheless, it's true. And with that, I want to come to William next. What are you seeing as the current state, furthering Patrick's point, around clean tech and environmental technology?
I think that the very important point in what Patrick's mentioned is the digitalization. If you look a little bit back at clean tech as an asset class, it started around, I would say, between 2006 and 2010, and it started pretty much as a confusing asset class between venture capital trying to deploy capital in infrastructure assets. And somehow that doesn't work very well, because the size of a venture capital pocket doesn't fit very well with an infrastructure asset. And of course, I think that the whole story about second generation ethanol production, which was not a good financial result for those who invested there, illustrates that trying to mix this together was quite challenging. I think that when you reach around 2013, 2015, then you really had a shift with two very important things that happened. On the one hand, the renewable energy generation shifted from something entrepreneurial to something really mainstream. So utility scale renewable started to compound of more than 50% of the new installed capacity in the world. And mainly wind and solar, which are the big winners of the story. And as a consequence, because it's a type of energy that is less steady in terms of generation than other sources of energy, These brought a lot of need for more complex solutions, which require a lot of investment in intelligence and digitalization. And I would say this shift toward digitalization is something that we've seen now applying to other sectors that are also clean tech sectors. So anything that is related to transportation and logistics, as Patrick said, is something that we see a lot in Brazil. And we've had some success stories. There are some huge success stories in Brazil of clean tech investments in logistics. It's something that we start to see happening in the waste sector, which when we launched our fund back in 2013 was a very brick and mortar sector, where it was extremely challenging, I would say, to put it in a nice way, to make investments in this sector. And there are more and more solutions that are appearing in the market today that are, I would say, either IoT or digitalization enabled. And all of these, at the end of the day, is the result of, on the one hand, a big pressure from technology, so digitalization, and on the other hand, a huge change of consumer awareness. And that's something that you see also on the food chain. And of course, when you do clean tech investment in Brazil, you need to incorporate agtech and food investment in your clean tech strategy, because everybody knows that Brazil is really an agricultural powerhouse. So all of these today is bringing a lot of very attractive opportunities. And I think that the last thing, which for us is very important, is that these companies are getting more and more mature. So the startups that a few years ago were kind of small embryonic companies are either scale up or companies that are in the growth space, and where it will be possible to deploy larger checks with a slightly lower risk than the kind of check and risk relationship that we took in the past. So this trend, I think, is further advanced in Europe and in the United States, but a country like Brazil, with its size and its boldness in innovation, is catching up very fast.
You're spot on. And one of the things you called out, the Internet of Things, this is an area that I have a lot of expertise in as well. And saw a lot of companies in the early days to the time frame you pointed out back in 2013 and even in 2014 that were early in the idea of the concepts around Internet of Things enabled devices or products. And you're right. It was an issue of kind of maturity, market adoption, and really use case, right? Where were things needed to be solved? How would those be solved? And then from a market perspective, was the market ready? And in most cases, it was no's across the board. And now here we are many years later, and you're seeing exactly that. You're seeing companies that are mature. You're seeing the market that is adopted, and the technology is there to solve for actual use cases that need to be solved. It's not just which was a good product, I may add before I say it. It's not just a trash bin that has a sensor in it that's monitoring, the level of trash in a city. But again, a good product and a good necessary product to have within cities. But that was a huge common product set that we saw for many years in those times. And now I think to both points so far, and heads shaking all around, we're seeing a much bigger open world around that as well. Amal, I see you shaking your head, so I'll turn it over to you next. What do you see as the current state furthering that? You're on mute, sir. There you go. All good.
Yeah, sorry about that. My observation, I think that the guys have said some obviously very salient points about the future. My own perspective is China is a big factor in the world economy, and in the space that we're involving, they've managed to drive down costs in lots of different areas. And anybody who's operating, and we're focused on Europe, right? But we have to be aware of the giant that's behind that could potentially crush your business model. So you have to be thinking in advance whether you have that genuine space upon which you can capitalize on. We've seen pricing pressures across the board in say, renewable energy, driven largely by China's ability to drive down costs and suddenly make what were difficult adoptions into mass adoptions in terms of, say, solar as an example. I believe that the industry at the moment, there's a lot of robotics and AI technology that is going to radically change the way we operate from a business standpoint in lots of different places. So my only comment is that as a person who's focused on the European market, with the idea that you could sell internationally, we've got to keep our eye on what's happening outside of our window to make sure that we're ahead of those curves.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point. I had the chance to talk to many in Europe around the sustainability efforts and just focus around clean tech. And it looks like there is actually more effort than most know about. You know, China, you call out, and what's happening in Southeast Asia, as we come to the rest of the panelists, we called out as well. There's a lot of activity there here in the US, and we've also heard already in South America that's happening. But Europe, there's more happening in this space than people are willing to talk about. I don't know why. It's very unfortunate because there are some great companies, there are great technologies, and you know, you're calling it out from IoT to robotics to logistics. There's so much there. I hope it comes to light soon, and we'll come back to you on that in just a moment as well. So Telly, to you, and then Luis, we're going to finish off with you on this one. Telly, to you, what are you seeing as the current state?
Well, I mean, to complement what others have said, but within the space of clean tech, what I'm seeing is, especially in the area of smart grids, intelligence, there is really a groundswell of more companies that are actually doing it more efficiently. I mean, in the early days, I would agree, there was a high level of risk with these new companies. And so it's taken some time for them to market test and make sure that they're able to deliver. But then now you have newer, cheaper models and mechanisms for these smart grid systems. It's not just along smart grids. I would say another area we're starting to see some growth is in the area of water and technologies around water and water management from the perspective of intelligence and AI, also in terms of monitoring. We're seeing a growth in that. On the area of energy, I would say energy storage is all of a sudden an upswing, and it's like right across the board. Even from mining, you're starting to see a high demand. So, for example, Brazil, when you're even looking at it from a commodity asset class perspective, vanadium is something that is super high in demand. We have a lot of clients, looking in that. And then when you're looking at it downstream, the innovations and the new models around energy storage, I think that definitely pricing for energy storage has come down tremendously over the last, I would say 6-7 years. There's still opportunity for a more downward trend, but definitely in terms of a long-term view, especially when you're looking at the trends of electric vehicles. You can't really have electric vehicles without really considering, energy storage. So that's something that we found interesting. The whole aspect of there is a move, and I have been observing and following geothermal, although because geothermal for the most part provides you with the more base load type of energy requirements, but I think there's still a lot more that requires de-risking. What I'm seeing in Europe is there are some pockets where I've seen blended finance kind of have to come to play in order to de-risk those investments. I think it's something to look at. It's not necessarily there yet, but still an area of opportunity. Another big area, like we said in terms of digitization, I believe holistically, because one of the biggest challenges you have in even implementing any of these climate change mandates is being able to measure and monitor. So a lot of models require, that ability to monitor. So whether it's at the micro side, within a built environment perspective, where you're looking at efficiency, any type of efficiency, whether it's energy efficiency, water efficiency, we're seeing that as a growing area. Um, uh, Circular models more so in Europe, because I think the circular models have been really been tested over the 5-6 years. So circular economy models are doing quite well. When you're looking at, say, in emerging markets, I don't think we do as well in terms of the circular economy, but there are, if we were to start looking at opportunities along that dimension, I think we'll be able to uncover and unlock some very significant opportunities there. As William had mentioned, in Brazil, the whole context of uh, you're of applying, or well, investing in this space, but you can't forget about agriculture. So clean living, sustainable living from a thematic investment perspective, I think there's some linkages there, but we're also seeing how the linkages are embedded with regards to energy production, because and water production. So, the people who are in the space of food production need energy and water. So you're actually seeing a lot of innovations around and companies that are offering solutions to provide that sort of space, from a closed greenhouse space that incorporates solar, wind, as well as the digital tools for monitoring and managing. That's something that we see as a growth opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
To
much.
Luis, no, it's great. This is all wonderful. Luis, I want to come to you. I mean, same to you. Current state. What are you seeing as the current state right now?
What I'm seeing now is I think that finally we have energy as a sexy topic, because a few years ago we were talking about social media and bitcoins and all this, tokens, and energy was not, among the top three, and somehow it became sexy. Now we have Amazon, putting ads every time with wind turbines all around and saying that they're looking for a sustainable solution for them, and Microsoft, and also Walmart has recently launched a gigaton initiative where Walmart is pushing their suppliers to team up so they can buy a big chunk of their energy from renewable sources. And so this became a headline. And I think this is amazing, because energy is something that is very important. It's the base of everything. You need a lot of energy for mining, for, when you talk about anything digital, you're supposing your computer is somehow powered by energy, either from an outlet or a battery. So energy is very important. Again, it's not sexy enough. It doesn't bring you the multiples that some big social media can bring, because it's not that disruptive. But I think, in my perspective, this is the most important thing that has happened like over the last few couple of months, very recently. So this is a big change. Now energy and clean tech they are in the spotlight. So we can have more people and big people and relevant people involved in this discussion. But on the other hand, everyone is rushing to find a big solution. And just to highlight one thing that I it's concerning me, we have to find a long-term solution. When we talk, for example, when we talk about storage, I have a big concern that we're installing a lot of wind and solar, and we are just plugging a dirt battery there that is going to be a problem for us to dispose years ahead. It's something similar to the plastic bottle. When we started to see Coca-Cola changing the glass bottle and using plastic bottle, and it's easy, it's nice, it's light and whatever. Back there it was a big solution. Now it's a big problem because we're not managing the plastic the way it should. I was reading an article saying that all the plastic that was made since 1960, only 10% was recycled. So it's a big concern for us. So I don't want a solution for storage, for example, that I know it's a big thing for the renewables, to become a problem 10, 20, 40 years down the road. We gotta build a sustainable solution, not only to allow more renewables, but to allow in a sustainable way. So I think just putting these two together, amazing that we have energy and clean tech on the headlines and everyone involved and interested in discussing, but let's do it the right way, with the right pace, so we actually find a sustainable solution for the energy issue for the whole world.
Yeah, and I think you're calling it out right. I mean, the pace, right? There's no need, there is, but there isn't a need to rush this and do it wrong. There's the need to rush this and do this right as well. So, really making sure we have some of those boxes ticked, and also coming back to iterate upon some areas to continue to push things forward, I think is the point there. So I want to come around to everyone and make sure we get in areas of opportunity, because there is so much that's happening here. Where's one area of opportunity that you think entrepreneurs and investors should be paying attention to if they're looking to start making bets in this space, or really looking to thrive in a market as well? And Luis, we're going to start with you. You were last to go, so I want to come back to you. Where are you seeing the areas of opportunity? Just one area of opportunity, as we're getting close to the lightning round here in just a moment.
I would say smart grid. Because I agree 100% with Telly. It's smart grid. It's not as simple as it seems to be. It brings a broader solution to a lot of things. And by using smart grid, so we can manage. Because first, I think the first concern we should have towards energy is its energy usage. So first, we got to be more efficient. We got to, avoid losses. We got to use it in the smarter way. And I think that before thinking about more installed capacity, more whatever, growing the installed capacity, the installed generation capacity, we should learn to use the energy we have right now in a more, wiser way. And I think the smart grid solution, it's something that can save us a lot of money, save us a lot of energy, and save us a lot of effort in towards growing the installed capacity. So I agree 100% with Telly. I would say focus on this. There's a lot of room for innovation, a lot of room to use digitalization, IoT, to use better the energy.
Well, with that being said, Telly, I think you're next. I mean, Louise teed you up. Where are you seeing the area of opportunity, if it's either smart grid or something different? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, it is microgrid, smart grid, to be honest. But I think maybe to add to that, I would say there is a very unique opportunity just looking holistically at the built environment, because of a lot of the significant infrastructure needs. And so within that space, apart from your smart grid opportunities, you also have opportunities along, opportunities for building construction, new construction methods. I mean, from an investment perspective, I don't want to be putting money into a real estate construction that's going to take me 6 months. and tie up my money when I could do it in 3 weeks. So there are newer technologies for building that are energy efficient, that are clean, because the emphasis, I would say, is just looking at the whole thematic of clean living and sustainability together. So within that context, it's not just about the energy, it's also about the ambiance, you know, the environment. More so now than ever before, you know, our air quality is something that I would say they recognize air quality affects people's performance. So even along that line of adding wellness to it, there is like a whole, should I say, plethora of opportunities of that improving our internal space, transformative structures as well, ones that are blend well with the environment. So I would say, you know, when we're looking at environmental tech as well as clean living, apart from smart grids, if you look further downstream, I would say that's really a big growth area. And then also when you're thinking about the climate and the impacts of the climate, I mean, I'm in the Caribbean, and the opportunities for building new structures and infrastructure that is more resilient is really significant. So there's a lot of deal flow when it comes to that space.
Absolutely. Amal, I see you shaking your head. I'm going to let you go next. Area of opportunity. Make sure you unmute.
I'm a good head taker. So I think for me, the area that I think is really interesting is sustainable transport. It's a $13 trillion industry. It's due to grow by 50% by 2030. We're talking about population growth. We're talking about consumer growth in terms of consumption, goods, and mobility. And I think there's a desire to protect the climate, but at the same time having to deal with increasing urbanization. So transportation is going through a transformation, and that transformation in terms of sustainable transportation initiatives is going to be at the forefront. And whether it's at the cars or trains or marines or airplanes, we're seeing a lot of work being done around batteries, around the deployment and the transformation, the shift from all cars going towards the e-cars that will be coming out in this next phase. Big opportunities in that area. So for me, that's the sector that I would think that could hold the most promise.
William, same question.
I think that smart grid here in Brazil is probably a longer term thesis than in Europe or in the United States. So it's definitely something that is in our radar, but probably not the kind of first investment that we will do with the next fund. Probably more like around the midterm of the investment period. The low-hanging fruits here are definitely related to rooftop power generation, because there is a big deregulation in Brazil, opening a lot of opportunity, and also because something that is very new in Brazil is that for the first time in Brazil history, we have low interest rates. So access to capital is easier. There is, of course, as anywhere in the world, a lot of non-banking debt solution, which makes access of capital easier. And we need to keep in mind that we're in a country where 3 years ago, interest rates were at 14% per year, and today they are 2% per year. So you can imagine how much it enables scaling up these kind of investments. And last but not least, really anything that is related to agtech and the food chain for the reason that I mentioned before. So I think that that's really what's hot in our space now. Logistics and transportation and urban mobility, definitely. I think that the low-hanging fruits in logistics are behind us. I think that urban mobility, there's still a lot of interesting business model happening and a lot of things to do.
Patrick, to you, close us out on this before we hit the lightning round.
Okay, I'll start high level then. So digital businesses with recurring revenue business models are getting enormous valuations. And if I was an entrepreneur, I find that very attractive today. And where they're solving real world problems of the like we've been talking, then that's really attractive for us. So Jamal, I've got some of our portfolio I must talk to you about. We've got companies in transportation such as Viewlog or Zelo here in Europe, which are knocking the ball out the park. And logistics we have been investing in, and it is changing here very rapidly now. I don't think, William, it's too late, but I think it's changing very fast, and a lot of money's been going in the past 12 months. So we're now looking beyond and looking at companies that are really adept at dealing with data. So such as we invested fairly recently in a company called Deep Sea, which does AI for shipping to improve the efficiency of shipping and that type of thing. So it's still addressing really complex problems, but with highly competent digital strategies and with the business models we all know and love. And we're going to find areas that surprise us around that. And I think it will become more industrial over time. So we're looking once again at intelligence in robotics and areas like that. But again, the emphasis is more on the digital than the hardware, ideally for us.
Wonderful. And all, thank you so much for joining us today. As we hit this lightning round, real quick, I want, if you can, to provide the audience with one piece of advice if they're building or investing in this space. So whether that's on the diligence side or just advice to entrepreneurs, quick advice. Again, we're almost at time and it's Partner Monday. And then where can everyone find you online? So Luis, let's start with you. One piece of advice, and then where can everyone find you online?
I think the piece of advice here, and I'm talking specifically on the energy clean tech, not waste or whatever, but on the energy clean tech, I think it's to invest a lot of time and energy on the innovation, and be sure that you have that protected, because energy, we're talking about big players. GE, Vestas, Siemens, and all these guys, they have the money to just look at your innovation and copy or whatever if you don't have the right protection. It's something that it's, and if it's going to disrupt their business model, be protected 100%, because we saw a lot of good innovations and as we're structuring the fund, but if they don't have the right protection to their to their idea, we see a big risk of these big companies just steal their idea because they have the money, they have the power, they have the brains to do it. So this is be protected, innovate, and take care of your innovation. You guys can find me on LinkedIn, Luis Freitas, founding partner of Edge Advisory. I still don't have the name of the fund, but until then, I'm gonna be still running my advisory business, so you can find me there. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, being here, Kyle, every time. It's amazing speakers. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Appreciate to have you as well. And Telly, to you, quick piece of advice, and where can one find you online?
Okay, thanks. Okay, real quick, I would say, and maybe looking at maybe the asset allocators, people who are looking at investing in the space, I would say it's really important because it could be very, very highly complex when you're looking holistically at clean tech as well as environmental tech. There's so many things, and having a deep understanding on, should I say, the smart infrastructure, the socio-technical transformations, even the policy objectives that drive certain things. It's critically important to understand how to invest in this thematic. So I would say take your time to look at the different trends, to look at what's going on. Again, as you would have noticed, we're all from different parts of the world, and therefore the opportunities actually vary. if you're in a different part. I'm in the Caribbean, very close to Brazil, so we tend to have very similar opportunities. Though Brazil is much bigger. In Europe, the lens is a little different, the motive is different. Then you have untapped markets like in Africa that really do not have energy, and so apart from apart from focusing on the areas of supporting clean tech, it's really as an imperative, because then you have a huge market. So look at the different areas. I mean, what we have done is fashioned a program, especially for mid to senior career professionals who really want to understand the whole new emerging opportunity for climate finance, understand the whole smart infrastructure, and how smart infrastructure interfaces with digital financial market infrastructure. And there are new ways of mobilizing capital, allocating capital, leveraging new tech like blockchain, AI. A combination of these, not just one of them, a combination of these are important, but having one space to understand what's going on is something that you could probably do, leveraging our programs and others as well. You can find
and where
me.
can Yep, sorry, Telly, we were just about at time. So where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Telly Valerie Onu, or TV Onu. Email, the website's Beyond CapM, that's CAPM.com, and outschools.co. So.
Wonderful, thank you. And William, to you. Quick piece of advice. Where can everyone find you online?
The piece of advice for clean tech investment is probably don't expect a sustainability premium on your investment. Make sure that the economics are compelling. Be patient, and understand that a lot of the deals are B2B, industrial B2B or B2B, and that requires quite some time before having some strong adoption. You can find me, of course, on LinkedIn at Guillaume Sagez, and on www.performainvestimentos.com.
Wonderful. And Amal, to you.
I guess my words would be simply that we're at the right point in time to be investors or involved in the shift towards the greener economy. The issue that I would bring to your investors is the transition risk, the changing demand and the behavior. People just need to be patient, but we're on the right side of history. The world is moving to where we want it to be, in a safer, cleaner world going forward, and investments will pay off, but they may take time for them to be fully adopted. And you can reach us at sustainability-investors.com, and we're happy to interact with you from there.
Wonderful. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing good happens overnight. It takes time, I think, to everyone's point. Patrick, last piece of advice. Where can everyone find you? Close this out.
So you can find me at etfpartners.capital or on LinkedIn, and advice should be sparing, but should be listened to generally. So listen to advice, it's free, is my first advice. My second advice to entrepreneurs is actually think carefully about the realities of the resources and the time required, and gather those resources. Then keep things as simple as you possibly can. Nothing is ever simple enough, but really meeting needs is it takes time to be simple, but if you achieve it, you have a wonderful business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to everyone, thank you again so much for taking your time today on Partner Monday to join us and share your thoughts and insights around clean and environmental technology. To your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show and join our panelists as well. And if you do reach out to connect with them and continue the conversation, please, as always, advice, add context so they know where you met them. Let them know you heard them here on VCTV. And with that, a big thank you to Maria and to the entire LATOKEN team for making VCTV possible every single day. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are here with double episodes, so we'll be back after a short break. I'm Kyle Ellicott, your host. You can find me everywhere at Kyle Ellicott online. And we'll see you back here very, very soon.